Resident Services Manager for Detroit City Council member Raquel Castellana Lopez. She is also the Michigan representative of the Yemeni Alliance Committee, a coalition of American Yemenis across the USA who advocate for human rights and represent the voices and needs of Yemenis and Yemeni American communities. Amongst the plethora of passions she puts her heart into, Hanan is also an urban gardener, traveler, and social entrepreneur. Her latest project, Stories Never Told, is a travel and exhibit narrating the artistic renaissance born out of Yemen's crisis. It will be piloting here at the Arab American National Museum on Thursday, February 21st, so you guys should come. It's free, open to the public, and all donations will be sent to the Yemen Relief and Reconstruction Foundation. So please help me welcome Hanan Yahya.
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing today? I don't hear you. Come on, guys. Today's the Muslim ban anniversary. We gotta show some resistance in our spirit. How's everyone doing today? Good. Great. I prepared a speech, so I asked them to prepare a podium for me because I don't think I can hold an iPad and read from it at the same time while holding a microphone. So thank you all for coming. Good afternoon. My name is Hanan Yahya. Thank you for your participation and thank you for your resistance. During the presidential election campaign, Mr. Trump, aka 45, promised a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States. My sister can do a really great impression of him. I would have done it right now, but she can do it better. In the same speech, he conflated 1.7 billion Muslims, or more than 20% of the Earth's population, with terrorism. And he denounced anyone who did not agree with his assessment as morally unfit to serve as president. We believe otherwise. Trump's rhetoric punishes the innocent, lumps millions of ordinary people with a tiny number of criminals, complicates international relations, business, commerce, and international education, and overturns US constitutional guarantees and American traditions of humanitarian generosity. No one from any of the 6 countries has been involved in a terrorist attack or mass shooting in the United States. Tens of thousands of foreign-trained physicians providing care in the poorest American communities come from the 6 countries and may be barred from their essential work. My family is from Yemen, one of the 6 banned countries. This ban has had a chilling effect in my community. People are afraid and they feel dehumanized. Exactly 75 years ago, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, our president at the time, issued an executive order in the name of national security. Does that ring a bell? The order authorized the removal of all persons deemed a threat to national security from the West Coast to various relocation centers. Executive Order 9066 banned all persons of Japanese ancestry, both alien and non-alien, from a designated coastal area stretching from Washington State to southern Arizona, and hastily set up internment camps to hold the Japanese Americans for the duration of the war. I wanted to highlight a reminder that the forced relocation challenged in Korematsu applied only to Japanese Americans on the West Coast. There were Japanese Americans living out east who were arguably not targeted by Roosevelt's Japanese ban. Trump saying that it is a Muslim ban applies only to Muslims in a certain geographic region is not all that different from what Roosevelt did in Korematsu. A group of organizations serving the Muslim community filed an amicus in front of the court brief with the U.S. Court of Appeals, or the Fourth Circuit, on the government's attempt to remove a block placed on President Trump's Muslim ban by a federal judge in Maryland. The amicus brief specifically notes, despite attempts to sanitize its text, the clear intent of the Muslim ban is to disfavor and burden Muslims. The Muslim community may still face impermissibly invasive interrogations at the border even after the Muslim ban proportion of the executive order is lifted. The executive order focused on Muslims and Muslim majority countries is divorced from evidence, ill-conceived, and ill-advised. The Fred T. Korematsu Center for Law and Equality has filed an amicus brief with the Ninth Circuit, which the Asian Law Caucus has signed onto, challenging the Trump travel ban, arguing that the president's new executive order discriminates based on national origin and is reminiscent of Executive Order 9066 that paved the way for the mass incarceration of thousands of Japanese Americans. In 1988, the US government formally apologized for Japanese Americans' wartime experiences, saying that they were motivated largely by racial prejudice, wartime hysteria, and the failure of political leadership, and issued reparations to survivors. Years later, the Justice Department confessed error over its role in these causes as well. That's too long of a time to say sorry and pay reparations for their actions. At some point, Donald Trump, Jeff Wall, or maybe John Roberts or Anthony Kennedy is going to have to explain how this Muslim ban is legally different from Korbansu. We've read our nation's history, and we're living in its reincarnation time and time again. I hear from my community, who is not only impacted by the ban, but is also impacted by the war in Yemen. And they not only feel helpless, but they feel hopeless. They feel betrayed by their nation and by the world. And do you know what baffles me the most about the Muslim ban and other unjust policies? It's that the innocent people impacted by our military and our foreign policy have to migrate to places like the US because they have nowhere else to go. Their homes have been destroyed, livelihoods plummeted, and families traumatized. My people are fleeing circumstances that the US helped to create. You bomb us, then you ban us. What else can we do? Thousands of spouses and children who are barely surviving in war-torn Yemen cannot reunite with their families, relatives, who are US citizens. Their cases are either stuck in administrative processing or are relying on an arbitrary waiver process. Please, let us not forget Mahmoud Salim, a 31-year-old Yemeni American US citizen who committed suicide last July when his family, his wife and his two eldest children, were denied visas because of the Muslim ban. Let us not forget the recent story of Shayma Suwaile, who was granted a visa last month after her family's tragic story went viral. Shayma was able to meet her 2-year-old son, who was dying, and then marry him. What a luxury is that, right? To be a mother who has to desperately fight to meet her dying child, having done nothing wrong. This ban is just as pompous a solution as building a wall. There are stronger, safer, and more diplomatic and more just strategies to strengthen our national security, if that's really what this administration is fighting for. You may wonder to yourself, after all this information and all these events and your participation, what can I do? Here are a few thoughts and tips. 1, don't reinvent the wheel, unless your wheel is super innovative and can impact more people. I know people who get caught up in organizing logistics and things of that nature that could have saved them time if they had asked an ally or a colleague or a friend for advice and tips and templates that already exist. There are already pre-made toolkits for how to organize out there in the world. You just have to find them and put them to use. 2, make sure to amplify the work that's being done by One Immigrant, for One Michigan for Human Rights, by CARE, Council of American Islamic Relations, by Empower, by Take on Hate, and all the other groups that are already doing this work. 3, host panels, coordinate with other groups, invite the community in. Sometimes we tend to create these kind of spaces and we do our usual outreach, but at the same time we create this bubble of organizing that pushes people out, and I think we need to do better of inviting the entire community in. Don't make it difficult for other people to get involved. I meet folks all the time who are eager to support, but they just don't know how. They don't think that they know enough. They don't have enough organizing experience. And I think that it's our role and our job to bring them in, teach them what we've been taught, and learn from one another's experiences. 5, highlight stories. As we've seen in the recent story of Shayma, which was very tragic, but strong individual, emotionally evoking stories go viral, and they make more of an impact. So if we can focus on more of those, we can get more done. 6, be a good ally. There's so much power and resistance in being a good ally. 7, follow the lead of impactful and influential people. People like Rashida Tlaib, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. People like Khalid Beidu, and I follow him on Twitter, and I always feel empowered by the work that he shares. 8, when you walk away today, you can also sign and share a petition through the Action Network. And when you're posting on social media, share the hashtags, hashtag no Muslim ban ever, and hashtag repeal the ban. 9, in the same breath, I would also encourage you to build relationships with your congressional representatives. We don't spend a lot of time getting to know them, getting to know their policies and what they do, and holding them accountable. Find out who they are, their email, their contact information, it's all online. Email them, call them, make sure that they know that you're there, and share personal stories. And 10, this is a shameless plug, but I encourage you all to share and follow the Yemeni Alliance Committee on Facebook. Like Khadija mentioned, it's a coalition of Yemenis in America supporting human rights and uplifting the voices of Yemenis. And if you share and follow their work, you'll stay up to date on what we're doing. And finally, another shameless plug, but I'm curating this traveling exhibit like Khadija mentioned. There are a few flyers at the front table, but it's called Stories Never Told, Yemen's Crises and Renaissance. And we'll be featuring approximately 25 Yemeni artists who are based in Yemen and across the world, film, poetry, visual art, you name it. And it's going to tell the untold stories of Yemenis and their experiences of the war. Finally, there are tens of thousands of people that are still impacted by the ban. We should not have to be dying to be reunited with our loved ones. While 45 and the people who share his rhetoric continue their bigotry and claim that the Muslim ban is not targeting Muslims, there is fact to believe otherwise. As Karen Korematsu put it, she said, "History shows that the clear intent in 1944 was to round up Japanese Americans, and the administration's intent today is just as clear, to ban Muslims." 2 years later after the Muslim ban, it is still destroying lives. 2 years later, we will not stop fighting. This year, we must stop repeating history, and we must repeal this unconstitutional and discriminatory ban. I hope you will join me in this effort to resist. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hanan. Can we give her another round of applause, please? Jazakallah, Allah reward you for all of your efforts and for all of the work that you put into our community. So now we would like to move on to our next portion of the program, which is the